This week, talking about my favorite 50. Is it one of these two? I don't know. Got a Carl Zeiss Pencolor here and a Leica 50 Sumalux. Who knows which one, maybe it was one of these two or one of the other 15 that I have on the table here. We're going to take a look at them because obviously my son Dylan outside has his opinion. But what does a 1-year-old know anyway? So stick with me and we'll kind of visit all my little 50s here and find out which one is my favorite. So don't go anywhere. Here I am, Vietnam. This is Camera Talk with Dr. Scott. Well, this week, going through my collection of vintage lenses, discovered that I have quite a few 50s. Quite a bit more than obviously I actually need, but I'm having a hard time figuring out what's my favorite 50. So that's what we're going to be looking at this week. I selected 17 of my 50s. I actually have more 50s up here behind me, but they're not quite duplicates, but they're different apertures of the same 50s, so on. And if I selected mostly if I have a 1.4 and a 1.8 or something, I'm going to pick the 1.4 to choose from. So I have a number of 1.8s and 1.7s and 2 something, whatever. But I have all my widest aperture ones down on the table here. So we're going to take a look at them. We're going to go through 17 of them. Obviously, I'm not going to go through each and every one of them, but I'm going to make a selection just based on my own experience with using them and kind of try and whittle it down to the top, maybe top 10, maybe top 5, top 3, favorite 2, and try my best to figure out what is my favorite 50. So let's move on over to the table and take a closer look at these 50s and see what we've got up for offer today. So stay with me. We'll be right back after this short intermission. So we're back. These are my 50s, at least some of my 50s. I'd say they're some of my favorite 50s, but they aren't the favorite 50. And that's the purpose of this episode, is to find out my favorite 50. So, well, let me introduce them to you anyway, just so you know the variety that I have. I'm going to start on the end here. And the first one I have up is my 50mm f1.4, and this is a Auto Revenon, made in Japan. So Auto Revenon, my first one up. Next down the list, I have my Konica Hexanon 50mm 1.4. Again, this was kind of a benchmark for many of the other lenses made in Japan back in the day. So this is obviously going to be a contender. Next down the list, we have what looks to be a Pencolor Carl Zeiss 50mm 1.8. Is a smaller aperture, but still quite the reputation in the photography world. So Carl Zeiss Pencolor is number 3. Number 4 we have here is my Voigtlander Color Ultron 50mm 1.8. So again, the only Voigtlander contender here on the table. Next we have my Pentax Asahi Super Multi-Coated Takumar. Everybody's heard of the Takumars. This is a 50mm 1.4. The Takumar is one of the radioactive lenses that can suffer from a little browning of the elements inside, to which this lamp behind me here from IKEA. Has an LED lamp light, and give this thing a zap of that for about a week or so, and it clears itself right up. I have a separate episode of camera talk based on that one. So that's my super multi-coated Takumar. Next one, I have my Pentacon multi-coated 50 1.8 as well. It's the Auto Pentacon. Again, another German lens of a former name. Actually, this was a Meyer Gerlitz lens, and it changed to Pentacon when they got bought out. Next one on my list is my Carl Zeiss Planar 50mm 1.4. This is with the Pentax Yashica mount on here, and it's definitely one of my favorite lenses. Anyway, it may not be my ultimate favorite, but we'll see. It's definitely a great lens. Next one down the list, we have a Canon. This is the Canon 50mm 1.4 with an FD mount from the early 1970s. It's got the silver nose. This was one of the first one in the family of FD mount 50s. And again, another great little lens. Next is its competitor, the Nikon 50mm 1.4, and you know, again, I was lucky to find this one brand new, still in the box, even though it's a 40 some odd year old lens. So obviously Dylan, you can hear outside, has his opinion on this Nikon. You know, Nikon glass is excellent quality no matter what era it comes from. Next down the list here, I got my Olympus. This is the Zuiko Auto 50mm 1.4. Again, another great lens with a great reputation. Nice little bit of history here. Kind of a famous lens. Another one of my most personal favorites, as well as who else likes this lens? The Angry Photographer, Ken Wheeler, also endorses this lens too.
It's the Yashica Yashinon. Now it's marked 5 centimeters at f2, basically 5 centimeters, 50 millimeters. So it's a 50 millimeter f2.
It is a Yashica 50 millimeter f2. It's a Auto Yashinon. And again, very tiny. Look how small that is. It's very tiny compared to, look at this Nikon. And you know, there's no adapter or anything on here. Look at the difference. Long, short. Some people like them long, some people like them short.
Size does not matter. It's what you know how to do with it.
Anyway, that's the Yashica. Next along the way is my my Leica 50 millimeter Sumalux. Again, 50 1.4. It's aspheric lens. Now, of course, this is kind of in a different class by itself, just for the fact that what we paid for this lens here, I could buy all of these lenses for and more. So it's quite a pricey little piece of glass, but it is an excellent piece of glass nonetheless. Next one down the line is another Carl Zeiss. This is again a pretty ancient, you know, over 50 years old. Actually, it's older than me. I'd say closer to 60 years old. It is a Tessar 50 millimeter 2.8, and that may not seem very fast and whatnot, but the quality of the photos that come out of this little baby here are quite outstanding. You know, it has 12 aperture blades, rounded aperture blades, so it's you know, quite sweet as far as bokeh and whatnot goes, or bokeh. So another great little contender. Next down the list, actually the next four are Leica lenses. This one's a Lights Wetzlar. This is a Summicron 50mm f2. This is from the 1970s. Again, it's well-made piece of glass. Leica's kind of known for that. So even though they're old pieces of glass, they are good quality glass. Next down the list is its next big brother. Oh, sorry, its little brother. This one actually came out before this one. So this is also a Summicron 50 f2, and this one's from the 1950s. And again, the quality of the build, the glass, everything about it, the rendition, the sharpness, the contrast, all that good stuff is really legendary in the photography world. So the Summicron silver from the 50s was also excellent. Its kind of little cousin is a Sumarit, also 50mm f2. Sumarit was famous for its own, its own characteristics. Mostly its bokeh and the way it could pull details out of the shadows and whatnot. It's again an excellent little lens. And the kind of granddaddy of all the Leicas is the Sumar. This is a 50mm f2 also. And that was considered extremely fast for back in the day, because back in the day for this little guy it was 1933. Holy old, man. That's older than my parents. So anyway, this is also, for being as old as it is, it's still an excellent piece of glass that would give some of these other guys a run for their money, so to speak. And the very last ones, because I have the little ones sitting in front here because I need a bigger table. But my very last, but not least, is my Meyer optic Görlitz. It's a Trioplan 50mm 2.9. It's kind of an oddball aperture. If only I could remember my vocabulary, things would go a lot better for me, wouldn't they? But anyway, my Meyer Görlitz here, just like my Tessar, has quite a number of aperture blades and whatnot. And again, being as tiny as it is, I mean, this is tiny.
That's what she said.
What did I say was tiny? The Yashica, it's smaller. It's smaller than the Yashica. It's smaller than the Carl Zeiss Tessar. It's a tiny lens, but the quality, you should see the soap bubble bokeh balls. Soap bubble bokeh balls. I should get some T-shirts made up that say that. Anyway, excellent little lens. So let's start whittling these things down. Which ones do I like? Well, I like them all. Otherwise, I wouldn't own them. But which ones, if I had to sell some of these, which ones would kind of be on the chopping block, so to speak? Now, starting at the end here, my Auto Ruvenon is pretty good, but I just find that I don't use it very often. I mean, it's again, it's a great quality lens, very smooth focus ring, and so forth and so on. It is a nice lens. I can't say that enough. It is a nice lens. It's just like I said, I don't use it all that often, and maybe I should use it more, but I don't. But let me I'm going to take a test shot of my usual my Canon M50, which is filming this. I'm going to use my Sony a7R II. I'm going to get rid of my, I have another 50-ish, get a 55 here. The Sony Zeiss 55mm 1.8. Also a very sweet lens, but it's not 50. It's a 55. So again, let me get a sample picture for you, or a photo, so you can see the rendition here. Why isn't this go? Oh, got it backwards. Speaking of Canon, I had Canon in my mind, which is loads from the other side. Anyway, let's get ourselves, and remember, these are all, and of course I do everything wide open, but these are manual focus lenses, and so I'm going to get as close as I can and to see how sharp, wide open they are, because that's also going to make a difference for if I keep it or not. All right, so Auto Ruvenon 50mm 1.4. This is the picture for you. All right, so that was that. So, am I going to keep this one? Probably not, to be honest with you. So, I'm going to put him up here. Of course, I say him, could be a her. Not quite sure how to tell the gender of a lens. Anyway, next down the line, this is my Konica, and as I told you before, the Konica was legendary for being a benchmark lens in Japan. That the government even said, you know, that the Konica's lenses were so good that they wanted to compare other lenses to them. Now I have, as I told you, I have multiple of these. So the Konica, I have the 1.4 here, I have the 1.7 and the 1.8. There are people out there who will say the 1.7 is actually sharper, but the 1.4 does its thing, and the 1.4 obviously offers a more shallow depth of field. So so again, I have narrowed down that I'm going to do the wide open as all on these things. So let me go with the Konica 1.4. So ready? 1, 2, 3. All right. As I can see right away that my Konica is beating out my Auto Ruvenon as far as sharpness goes. And as everybody knows, a lot of the photography people on YouTube focus on sharpness, 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 as if that were the most important thing. But believe me, it's not. All right, let's move on down the line though. I'm going to look at my Pancolar. Now this is the Carl Zeiss. Again, Pancolar 51.8, and this is a M42 mount, or screw mount, as also it's known as.
Hey, screw you!
So let me get that on here, and then we can get ourselves a shot of this guy. Let me make sure that we're wide open here. Magnifier. It's one of the beauties of mirrorless cameras is, you know, using, oops, I'm going the wrong way. Using the magnifier to help with these manual focus lenses. All right, so let me zoom in as best as I can on the end of the lens here. I think that's pretty much as sharp as I'm going to get. So Again, ready? 1, 2, 3. All right, and again, pen color is pretty sharp. You know, taking a look at the, so what I focus on is the script on the end of the barrel lens itself, the lens barrel lens. So that was the Carl Zeiss pen color, and again, I like kind of its rendition. How it comes out, so I'm gonna keep him or her in line at this moment. Next one down the line is my Color Ultron Voigtlander, so which is also an M42 mount. So I'm going to screw this baby on the end here. Mount it. It's a very light lens as well, I must say, just from comparing these two, even though pen color is pretty light as well, but the Voigtlander is lighter than the, let me open that all the way. Now this is a 1.8, remember, not 1.4, even though the pen color is also 1.8. So, again, let me zoom in. Zoom in on the end of the, good. So this is again pretty good lens. The Color Ultron are one of Voigtlander's nicer lenses. Now again, this is not the Voigtlander of yesteryear. You know, it's the current Voigtlander, which is Cosina. So anyway, let me take a picture of this guy. 1, 2, 3. All right, so that was our Voigtlander. Let me take that off. All right, it's exciting, isn't it? The pressure is mounting here. Now, am I going to keep this bad baby? Actually, this is not a Cosina. The Voigtlanders that I'm thinking of are my Leica mount Voigtlanders, which are made by Cosina. This is actually made in Singapore. This was when, again, Voigtlander was bouncing around from owner to owner. And so this was built in Singapore. And as much as, again, I like it, I find that I don't really use it. So I'm going to put that out into the non-running category. Next, I have my my super multi-coated Takumar, and again, this is a 51.4 legendary lens in the photography world. There's a lot of Takumar fanboys out there who would swear,
Get the fuck out of here.
by these, that it's the greatest lens ever made. Now, of course, there was another one which was an 8 element Super Takumar, which again, rumor had it was so super that it's super duper multi-coated Takumar. Just kidding, of course, but anyway, of course, the Takumars had, again, their strengths, their weaknesses, but let's get a zoom in on, like I said, it is pretty zoomed in right there. All right, are we ready? 1, 2, 3. All right, so you know, again, the Takumars were, you know, well known for their bokeh, for their sharpness, for their color renditions, and so forth and so on. So, because of the fact that I have a couple other Super Takumars and SMC Takumars and whatnot, I may end up actually keeping this one because I do find myself using it more often than not. So, moving on down the line, got myself here the Pentacon 50mm 1.8. Pentacon, as I told you, was previously Meyer Optic Görlitz, and when they got sold off, or I guess folded into the line of Pentacon came along, they you know, they did well in that regard to call themselves Pentacon instead of Meyer Optic Görlitz. All right, let me zoom in on the lens here. Good, got a nice sharp outlook here. All right, are we ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay, just looking through the lens on this one, I not that impressed by it. You know, it has a good reputation as well for out of focus background and so on and so forth. But actually, let me change the bottom here because this cap is actually for Takumar, and this one is just blank. So I'd rather have the Takumar caps with the Takumar lens. So, see a Pentacon. I'm not impressed enough to keep you in the lineup. So that was again. Oh, I put that here where it was. So that was the Pentacon. Next in my lineup, I have my Carl Zeiss Planar or Planar, depending on who you talk to and how they pronounce it. This is a 50mm 1.4. This is again the Pentax Yashica mount. So, you know, different mounts than these guys here. It has its own thing, but still has a great reputation. I did a video actually against the Super Multi-Coated Takumar, because there was the rumor back in the day that the Takumar was the Planar killer. Planar killer. So you have to watch that video to see my opinion on that. So again, let me zoom in on the end of the. Am I wide open here? Yeah. Zoom in on the end of the Canon 15-45, and 1, 2. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. All right. And if you saw my video based on either, you know, this lens against this one or this one with the with my Distagon, you'll probably know that I like it. I use it more often than some of the others. So this one's definitely staying in the lineup. Next down the line here is my FD. My Canon FD, and you know, it's a good lens. You know, like all Canon you know, Canon lenses throughout this age range were pretty well built. I mean, built like a tank. This thing's got some heft to it. The glass was pretty good and whatnot. But again, this is a lens that I do not use all that often. Actually, to be honest with you, the reason I bought it is because the filter ring was dented, which means I could not put a filter on this lens, an ND filter, you know, circular polarizer or anything else. So I used it to make a video to show you how to fix a dent in your lens. So really, that's the reason why I bought it. So because I don't really use it for shooting, I'm going to put it up to pasture here and put it on the chopping block as well. So sorry to see you go, Mr. Canon lens. Okay, so I have my my Nikon 50. Where's the little red dot? There we go. So this is my my Nikon 50mm 1.4. Again, this is a pre-AI lens, so it's an older version, but it was brand new out of the box. So how could I pass something like that up? And it's still just like I said, all Nikon glasses is pretty top of the line anyway. So let me zoom in here on the end of the lens, get something as sharp as can be, wide open, and voila. All right, so ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that was my my Nikon Nikkor 50mm 1.4, and I'm gonna keep that one just because I like my Nikon glass. I think it's pretty good quality stuff, so she's not going anywhere. Next, I have my Olympus Zuiko. Now this is a again 51.4. Make sure I'm open all the way to 1.4. You know, my Zuikos here are, again, they're excellent quality for their size. They're all small little lenses. Again, get a nice sharp rendition there, or a nice sharp focus, I should say. So let's get a shot of that. All right, 1, 2, 3. All right, so that was my Zuiko. Am I going to keep this? Good question. This one's again one of those ones that I have it but I don't use it, so I'm gonna put it out here. And it's not because, you know, Olympus has, you know, bad quality stuff. I have a number of Olympus lenses. I just think maybe I like their 100 or their 85 and their 100mm lenses a little better than I like their 50, because I have so many of their killer 50s. The Olympus is really not doing itself a favor by being okay. Next is my little mini lens here, my Yashica 50mm auto Yashinon. Oops. Cross the threads there, mister. Do-do-do. There we go. Get that in there tight. The last thing you want to do is be cross-threading your M42 mounts, the screw mounts that will no longer screw. I hate things that don't screw.
Hey, screw you!
So let's make sure we're wide open, and again, this is one of my personal little favorites, just for the fact, again, it's built like a tank. It's tiny, sharp. It's got some great bokeh. If we get into some of that, see, it's almost like dead on. Oh yeah, see, one. So let me go down here. Yeah. So are we ready for this one? 1, 2, 3. Again, for a tiny little lens and for being really what it is, a simple design, a simple construction. As I said, it's built like a tank. It really is an excellent little lens. It just kind of put that Olympus to shame. So I'm definitely going to keep that. You're not going anywhere, buddy. All right, let's move on down the line. This is my Leica Sumalux 50 millimeter. Again, for being the most expensive piece of glass on the table here, it's not the most expensive that I have. Actually, this one's a bit more expensive, but Sumaluxes tend to get that way. But anyway, what I like about this lens, besides being sharp, is really its ability to, grab some great bokeh. The color renditions, the contrast, micro contrast, is really where Leica shines above and beyond these guys. They really do produce excellent glass. Their cameras are like, whatever. 1, 2, 3. But the glass, the cameras come and go. Camera bodies, especially nowadays, are all digital. So, really, what's digital? What's really the difference between them all? Little bells and whistles and things like that. But the glass, the effort you put into your glass is really where the value is in photography. So, so obviously this guy, not just because I spent the most money on it, but because of really the quality that Leica has, that has me keeping that bad baby in its place. Next one, moving down the line, this is again a Carl Zeiss screw mount. So this is the Tessar, and it's a 50 millimeter 2.8. So we're going to grab this one wide open. Make sure she's wide open there. And it's super light. I can hardly feel it in my hand.
That's what she said!
The adapter is heavier than the lens itself. Super quality, great build and whatnot. So definitely no complaints there. Again, very nice quality. All right, got it dialed in. Are we ready? 1, 2, 3. All right. Am I going to keep this bad baby? Well, as the saying goes, you know, when you've got a piece of history and you've got something that's worth that history, it's worth the effort to be able to use a piece of history like this. Again, this lens is older than I am, and yet the quality of its output is really beyond what I can really talk to here.
What you talking about, mister?
So I'm gonna keep it. Long story short, I'm gonna keep it. Next one is my actually I gotta get the funny, each one of these mounts is a totally different there we go. Totally different style of how you take them on and off. So let me get my Summicron or Sumalux off of here, get my Summicron on here. Same thing, click. All right, so the Summicron. This one is a, again, 1970s iteration of the Summicron. And again, it's, you know, being the fact that it's a Leica, it's just downright quality is what it is, even though it's a, you know, 40-year-old lens. You know, you can't, oh, it seems Dylan has an opinion on Leica lenses too. He likes them too. You know, a lot of my pictures taken with my Leica are with these lenses. So there we go. Got a nice sharp zoom in on the end of the 15 to 45 EOS M lens. So 1, 2, 3. Again, the quality of you know, Leica lenses, you know, goes without saying. Even though, as I just said, it's an older lens, but because of the quality of this, you know, it goes without saying that I'm definitely keeping this. So moving on down, let's look at the older Summicron. Where's my little dot? Here we go. The older Summicron here is, you know, this is from the 1950s, and you know, you may think, well, that's an old lens. Well, sure it is, but it's not old as in old as, oh, that's a terrible quality because of the fact that it's old. No, this is a good quality lens for being its age. So now, as you'll see by the rendition of the picture, you get where the age part comes from. The micro contrast and everything isn't what the current lenses are. So the colors and whatnot are not the same either. 1, 2, 3. Now, it may also come from, you know, due to the fact of its age, you know, it may be suffering from maybe some fog and whatnot happening inside, some haze. So it could probably stand to be a little CLA'd, but you know, I'll get around to that some other day. All right, let's move on to its little brother here. This is the Sumarit. Sorry, Sumarit. Sumarites are the, you know, modern ones. Sumatar. Sorry, this is a Sumatar. Even my computer agreed with me on that one. This is the again, the one that replaced. So this is a 1940s lens, and but again, when it came to comparing between the older, or the newer, I should say, Summicron. Zoom in on the end of the lens. Yeah, see this baby here is a little tad bit better as far as color renditions and whatnot go. So 1, 2, 3. All right. So as I say, as far as, you know, trading these ones in for anything else, no, that's not going to happen either. You know, my Leicas are my Leicas. I like my Leica. So I'm going to be keeping that. Just to keep us rolling here, I'm going to also do the Sumar, which again is a 50 millimeter. There we go. And even though this was a screw mount, it actually mounts on the adapter just fine. So I'm going to use it on the adapter, and of course wide open. Alright, there we go. Are we ready? 1, 2, 3. Alright, this one, again, the Sumar, in as far as lenses go, you know, being 1933, it's a damn old lens, but it's very comparable to the Summicron, and you know, they have very similar renditions. Alright, so let me get that on here. Last but not least, see, hold on, I need to get my Exacta mount here for my Meyer optic gurlets, because that's what it uses, is the Exacta mount to NEX, of course. Alright, another, again, really super lightweight. Make sure it's wide open. As I said, this one being a 2.9. Right. It's funny how they have reverse focusing ring. All right. So again, for being very old, very well worn, this little guy is very sharp. So here we go. Last on the list. 1, 2, 3. All right. And that was my collection here. Again, let me just put this back. Am I going to keep this one? Really, I should, just because it's so small and cute. I mean, I could stick this in my pocket and carry it around all day and never even know I had it. So, yeah, I'm going to keep it. So it seems this little corner over here is a safety zone. I'm gonna definitely keep these guys. Just so I don't have my sensor open to exposure here. For too long. Put my 55 back on there. All right, so
The things that make you say,
trying to decide which ones are my favorite. Wow. You know, again, I really like these. So actually, let me move these guys a little further out because they're definitely off the list. So I'm definitely not gonna want to keep those. Wow, let's see, the Konica. As nice as the Konica is, I really don't use it all that often. So
nope.
again, as nice as something is, when it comes to usability, well, not usability, come to being used, I guess I should say, that plays a factor. So I'm gonna put her up the middle. Pentacon,
Nope.
similar. Don't use it all that often, so I'm gonna put that up here. My Takumar I use more often, but not as often as others, so I'm gonna keep it in the running. My Planar, use it quite often. Keep that in the running. My Nikon, as much as I appreciate the quality of it and how great it produces, again, I don't use it really at all.
Nope.
Because there's other Nikons like the 105 that I use way more than this one. So I would keep that over this any day. My Yashica, definitely. My Sumalux, definitely. My Tessar, I don't use it as much as I'm keeping it. No, I don't use it that often.
Nope.
My Summicron, again, I like it. Don't use it that often, so I'm going to put that up here too. Same with all these guys. I'm going to put this whole little collection up in the middle here. So definitely not getting rid of these babies, but I'm not going to shoot with them. So that pretty much leaves me with four 50s. 4 50s. What can I really say about these 50s?
I'm afraid that's something I cannot allow to happen.
All right, so I've got my front row here. Those front 5, sayonara. Not gonna be keeping those or using them. My middle zone here. These are the guys that I like them, but I don't use them much. So I'm not gonna really determine whether I'm gonna get rid of them or keep them. I should keep them because they're good quality stuff, but definitely my Leica ones I'm keeping. Now, these final 4. The final 4. Are we in March? Oh, it's not March. This is May. So we can call it May Madness. The final 4 in May Madness. Let's see, Human and Han. If I were on a deserted island and I could only keep a couple of them, I'd have to say goodbye to my Takumar. Not because I don't like them, not because it's suffered from any bad quality or anything else. It's just, again, do I use it or do I don't? I don't use it all that often. So I'm gonna put this guy out here. So again, it's not in the front, it's not in the middle, it's kind of in the middle. Secondary middle, how's that? So that whittles us down to 3. So is it my Planar? Is it my Yashica? Is it my Sumalux? Well, I really, really like my Planar too. I'm gonna have a hard time not using this guy because I tend to use him quite often. So I'm gonna keep him in the running. The Yashica, I'm gonna sacrifice the Yashica. Put him up there. As great as the Yashica is, again, I find that I don't use it often enough to keep it in the running.
Nope.
So that leaves me with these two bad babies here. Carl Zeiss Planar, 50mm 1.4. Leica Sumalux, spherical, 50mm 1.4. Which one do I use the most? Because again, I love the rendition, I love the bokeh, I love the you know, the contrast, the colors, the whole thing. But as far as user goes, because I tend to use my my M10 quite often because it's fun, you know, as much as my Sonys here and my Canon are easier cameras to use because they're autofocus and whatnot, and they have more bells and whistles to be able to help, you know, with manual focus. I tend to use my M10 more often because it's a fun camera. It's like driving stick shift car type thing. So as much as I love my Planar, I think my 50 Sumalux is going to be my favorite. But my second favorite is my Planar. Yeah. So how can you love two? Well, it's been done many times before, right? There's all kinds of love triangles out there. Loving two at the same time. Just love one a little bit more than the other. So let's call it a day. Let's say that that I'm a Leica lover. There's lots of Leica haters out there, but if you're gonna hate something, hate their camera. Love their lenses. You know, again, the Leica lenses are the bee's knees. They're just too, you know, too good to talk about. So I hope that helped. I don't know how it helped you in any way, because unless you own the same lenses I have, it's going to be pretty tough to nail down what your favorite is. But I guess the moral of the story here really comes down to how I selected my favorites, and that really comes down to which one are you using? You know, which lens do you find occupies the space in front of your camera more often than not? And for me, my Sumalux seems to be stuck to the front of my camera more often. Whether it is on my M10 or my M9, I also use it on my my Sony A7R II, and that's because of the quality of the lens itself and the quality of the rendition, you know, of the picture. And of course, you know, this is a smaller sensor. Well, not smaller, the same size sensor. The megapixel count, you know, it's a 24 megapixel versus a 42 megapixel. So the 42 can definitely take advantage of such a great lens and be able to pull some wonderful renditions and wonderful results out of what it can offer. But my Carl Zeiss does the same, similar type thing. I wouldn't say the same. Again, the Sumalux, you know, corner to corner, wide open, you know, all the things that you measure, you know, a great lens against another great lens. You know, my Planar is still a super lens, but my Sumalux just happens to be better. So that was it. That was this week's episode of Camera Talk with Dr. Scott, and it's brought to you by Modesty Photography. And you know, I'd like to thank you for spending the time with me anyway. I know it's kind of a longer video just due to the fact that there's a lot of lenses we're going through here. But really, thank you for supporting the channel. And if you haven't subscribed yet, why don't you do me a favor, help to expose, you know, how YouTube works, right? More subscribers, the more exposure I get out there. So subscribe, and subscribe, even though you can only do it once. But in case you weren't listening and you're up getting some popcorn or something to come back and you missed it, subscribe. And part of the algorithm is the likes. So give me a thumbs up, even though it's kind of, you know, just like Facebook, the thumbs up gives us more, you know, more appearances out there in the world. So here's the thumbs up, girls, to support that. And last but not least, I want to give you a quickie shout out to Luminar, even though they're not sponsoring this, but Luminar, because I use Luminar myself as a photo editing software. They sent me a link to share with my viewers to save $10 on. So it's already a very economical program. Costs like $67, I think. It's yours for life. You know, you upgrade, you know, whenever they put out new upgrades, you just upgrade for free. And, you know, if you click the link below, you save $10. Who doesn't like to save $10, right? So help us out. Subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. Maybe Mr. Dillon would come in and say, hey, great, thanks for dropping by. But, you know, he's a little busy outside screaming at my wife. It's Mother's Day, by the way, even though you're going to watch this 2 weeks later. But still, it's Mother's Day, so happy Mother's Day out there to all those. It's a belated Mother's Day. But thanks for dropping by. We'll see you next week. Again, this was Camera Talk with Dr. Scott. And stay safe out there, COVID safe. You know, here in Vietnam, we've had some recent outbreaks. I'm hoping it's not going to turn into another India situation. I hope they don't close my university, because I don't like teaching online. I'd rather teach face-to-face. But anyway, you have yourself a great day, great weekend, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.
Here I am.